I've been asking the question, who's looking out for Israel? Who is standing up for freedom here and all over the world? We know that it's not Iran. It wants to take us down, take Israel down, and clear the path for the 12th Imam. I want to introduce you to a guest. We have him. We can put him up on camera. There he is. We can't show his identity, and we have to disguise his voice. He'll be with us live in about a half an hour. He actually has infiltrated the highest levels of the Iranian government, and he knows firsthand the plan for destruction of Israel and then the spread to America that is coming up. But it all ties in to the 12th Imam, the Christian Antichrist, and it also ties in to what else is going in the Middle East, going on. It's a little strange. But let's start here at home first with your wallet. The man who runs the largest bond fund in the entire world, so he probably knows a thing or two, says that U.S. Treasuries, the things, our debt, have, quote, little value because of our ever-increasing debt burden. Warren Buffett also suggested avoiding betting on the U.S. dollar because he believes it's about to tank. Wall Street is increasingly upping their interest in what they call tail risk. Basically, what tail risk is funds that are being set up by PIMCO, Deutsche Bank now, and other Wall Street firms. As we've been called crazy, and we've told you, prepare for massive stock market dives. These funds typically lose 15% per year in normal conditions, but they are structured. And they're structured to cash in big time during a time of crisis. Well, nobody has done these before. People are now saying, I don't think this is good. Something's going on. What else can I do with my money? And now people are lining up to lose 15% because they think massive trouble is ahead. Walmart, the world's largest retailer, working with suppliers now to minimize the impact of increasing costs to you. CEO Bill Simon of Walmart says that cost increase are coming at a rapid rate and that inflation is going to be serious here in America. The president just called to reduce oil consumption and increase ethanol. The problem with that is corn and oil are the two building blocks in this country. You don't have corn, you don't have beef, you don't have food. You don't have oil, you don't have cars. Unfortunately, the president is stopping us from drilling oil in our own land, and a guy who's been an expert in commodities since the 1970s, there's a couple of them that I read, but this guy summed it up the best. We will have inadequate acreage without spectacularly favorable weather, and it will usher in a significant food shortage, not just here, but all around the world. Gee, will that help or hurt a revolutionary fever that seems to be sweeping the world? We have reached this point because we have lived way beyond our means, and it's happened all over the globe. And now the world is turning to people to fix the problem. But the people who are fixing the problem are the people who created the problem, and they aren't honest brokers. And many of them, quite honestly, are enemies of man's freedom. They are divvying up the world right now and throwing matches on gasoline. Newsflash, this change of power is not a good one for America, for Israel, for Australia, England, anybody who loves freedom. Soros has said himself that America is the biggest roadblock to an open society, as he likes to call it, a borderless one-world government. He also, as we showed you, his organizations say that Israel and the Middle East, they are not going to do the right thing. They won't understand it. Well, I hope you all understand what's happening in the Middle East. We're going to show you a timeline here in just a few minutes. It'll show you that many of our politicians in Washington, I believe, are in bed with the enemy. Come on. A lot to do tonight. I'm going to try to move as fast as I can. This is a show that you really want to DVR tonight because we're going to jam through a lot of information. By the way, have I even said hello, America? Hi. An outspoken, prominent uber-liberal war critic has come out and slammed Obama's military assault on Libya. They said even if the country has a tyrant, and even if that tyrant is butchering his own people, if the country poses no imminent threat to the United States or to his neighbors, then getting involved amounts to a dumb war, end quote. Actually, he wasn't talking about this president's war. He was talking about George Bush's war. That was said in 2002 by the then state senator Barack Obama about the Iraq war. Now, as President Obama is doing things, he doesn't have that same opinion. He has launched a murky military action in Libya that fits his own dumb war description to a T. Something's wrong here, because this is only one of the extremely contradictory past quotes from Obama that the majority of the press continue to ignore. There are breadcrumbs all over that are leading you to very dark places, but nobody will pick them up. You'd think that someone would want to dig a little deeper and to find out what is happening and why the Prince of Peace, lovey-dovey president is suddenly interested in joining the Hawks. And his poll numbers are going down, which tells me that you know something's wrong. Has there ever been a president in your recollection whose poll numbers went down when he tried to protect people and went out on a military? I mean, that's what they always said about Clinton and Bush. He's only doing that to get his poll numbers up. Obama's are going down. I think the American people know something's not right. Tonight, I want to take you through a timeline of the key events and statements and actions taken by this administration and groups associated with this administration and others, spooky dude, and show you also another entirely new piece to the puzzle that I think explains a ton. And shockingly, these journalists refuse to investigate. Now remember, the storyline being sold to you right now is that after 40 years of dictatorial power, freedom fever just bursts out into the scene in Egypt and everywhere else in the region, like Libya. But let's go back and rewind the clock a little bit and see if we can put some puzzle pieces together. We start in 2003. 2003, this young lady right here. Her name is, well, she's a little-known journalist with U.S. News and World Report at the time. Her name is Samantha Power. And she writes a book called A Problem from Hell, America and the Age of Genocides. Now, immediately, because I believe it's anti-Israel, and many people called it anti-Israel, she immediately wins a Pulitzer Prize. Why is it called anti-Israel? Well, because she made statements that kind of sound that way. Listen.
Investing in the new state of Palestine, in investing billions of dollars it would probably take also to support, I think, what will have to be a mammoth protection force.
A mammoth protection force for the people in Gaza and the Palestinians against Israel. But she wins her Pulitzer and her career takes off and she lands a job at Harvard. 2005. Power quits her job at Harvard because she gets a phone call from Senator Barack Obama, who says, I think you need to be a top foreign policy advisor. 2005, same thing. 2005 now. Here she is releasing her book. 2005, the UN holds a world summit and adopts her ideas, the doctrine, responsibility to protect the populations from genocide, ethnic cleansing, war crimes, crimes against humanity, and they take it from principle into practice. So her idea, Barack Obama loves, goes right into the UN. 2006, a group called Monitor, it's a Cambridge-based consulting firm founded by Harvard professors, received $250,000 a month from the Libyan government from 2006 to 2008. And what are they doing? Well, they have a wide range of services, but one of them is to enhance international appreciation for Libya. And they try to generate positive news coverage for the country and to resuscitate Muammar Gaddafi's image. Now, who do they call on? Cass Sunstein, who is married to her, and George Soros, which will have a connection to her and him in just a minute. George Soros reaches out and helps. A few weeks ago, Soros has to issue an apology after supporting a donation to the London School of Economics from Gaddafi's son, because he said, I'm going to help. I'm going to help. I'm going to help this U.S. firm to improve Libya's image, and I'm going to get his son into the London School of Economics. But then Gaddafi's son plagiarizes his work, and so now George Soros is humiliated. 2008. George Soros is so intrigued by the powers doctrine that he helped fund and create an entire global center for the responsibility to protect, which is designed to be a catalyst for action using the responsibility to protect as a justification. Got it? He thinks this is great, but it's not really making progress in the UN. I, spooky dude, will get involved. And he puts it together in a new global organization. 2008, Power, Cass Sunstein's wife, works on the Obama campaign. You know her if you remember someone getting booted off of Obama's campaign because she called Hillary Clinton a monster. That person, it's her. Now, she was later rehired by Obama and is now a top foreign policy advisor, and she's playing a role today. 2008, candidate Obama visits Israel, but it doesn't take long after he leaves Israel before winning the election, and then the attacks on the Israeli settlements and on Israel begin, and they are unrelenting. They just go one after another after another. I don't think I need to list them, all of them, to you, but there is one that I want to play for you. I do want to play the one statement beyond President Obama telling the UN that he doesn't accept the legitimacy of the settlements. It's the statement that comes one after another from members of his own administration. They openly deliver blatantly insensitive and highly out-of-line anti-Semitic comments like this one. Here you're going to see somebody using the Arabic term for Jerusalem, which kind of means to the Arab world that Jerusalem doesn't exist. Here he is.
In all my travels, the city I have come to love most is Al-Quds, Jerusalem.
Okay. Al-Quds. That's a slam to anybody who is Jewish and lives in Israel. Now, they've also done several anti-Semitic jokes. A lot of them over and over again that seemed out of place, and no one reports on it. Then 2009, Richard Falk. He's a top official to the UN. He tries to use the Responsibility to Protect Act as a doctrine against Israel for war crimes. Now, the Responsibility to Protect doctrine was successfully used for Libya. Falk has once again called for it to be used against Israel. But we've got it now in the UN. We have George Soros, and now the United States has endorsed it, and that's what we went in to use with Libya. Now, who is Richard Falk? Well, here's a guy who supported the Ayatollah Khomeini's 1979 revolution in Iran. He was then a professor at Princeton University until 2001. And in 2003, he took part in the Socialist Scholars Conference. 2008, he was appointed to the Human Rights Council by the United Nations. He also proposed the creation of a global people's assembly, his answer for the rise of American fascism. Now, we go back to 2009. Here we are. 2009, here is Falk. Obama is inaugurated, and then he meets with the Muslim Brotherhood, during which the Brotherhood promises to support democracy and the war on terror. November 2010. While everybody was watching the midterm elections just this last fall, the Obama administration was focused on something else. They conducted an in-depth review of its policy on democracy and the Middle East, and the Egyptian democracy issue in particular. Now, no one attending the meeting would discuss any of the details, but the bipartisan groups attending the meetings, they're these groups. And they're almost all Soros groups, entirely George Soros-funded groups. Back to Samantha Power, because she was in attendance with the George Soros groups, where they're meeting about democracy last November in Egypt. And Samantha is being described now as the foremost voice on human rights. She has the president's ear and his trust. And the fact that Obama went into Libya using the Responsibility to Protect mantra, despite his obvious past statements calling that dumb, Power calls this a personal triumph. She is the advisor. Now, this is odd. She's declaring victory. This kinetic military action just started. It could end up being a total failure, a quagmire. So why would someone say this is a personal triumph? Is it that she cares about Libya, or is there something else she is more excited about? Is it the same thing that Richard Falk is excited about? Up until this point, November 2010, just last fall, Egypt was still relatively normal. No one was protesting in the streets. Yet the White House, during this meeting, talked about it. The White House new